They barely manage to escape, but, thanks to Nikolai's quick order to Stepan to make a sharp left, with only a deep dent in the side armor of the right side of the tank. In November 1941, just outside Moscow, Russia, Red Army Junior Lieutenant Nikolai Ivushkin drove a worn-down truck and trailer with a young private named Vasily beside him. Nikolai cuts down the street sign directing Berlin and Moscow to try and deter their enemies. Suddenly, a German Panzer III tank appears over the hill and opens fire on them. Nikolai, trained as an armor officer, maneuvers the truck skillfully to avoid the tank's shots. They manage to escape uninjured and alive, though very shaken up. Later, at a headquarters in the village of Nefyadovka, Captain Mikhail Karin reports to his commander that his battalion is down to one single tank with no tank commander left. He is severely injured and is unable to lead, but his commander tells him to fight to the bitter end. Fortunately for him, Nikolai arrives at the headquarters and is immediately appointed commander of the only surviving tank. Their mission is to cover the retreat of the echelon, and the hospital as the Germans are coming to Nefyadova. Nikolai is assigned to command a damaged T-34 tank whose commander was killed, with orders to delay the Germans' advance with only the single tank and a small number of supporting infantry. The men doubt his command, as it is his first day on the front lines. He tells them that he graduated with distinction and berates them for their laziness in preparing and fixing the tank. He warns them of their whining, as he perceives it as cowardice, which will be punished if they continue. Before leaving for a strategy meeting, he orders them to start prepping the tank and load plenty of extra ammunition. The following day, German SS Standartenführer Klaus Jäger and his men watch the village behind the tree line. He believes the Russians are planning something and orders his crew to move forward. Unbeknownst to them, Nikolai and his crew lay in ambush for the platoon of German panzers commanded by Jäger. They watch silently inside the tanks, waiting for when opportunity strikes when the Germans' tanks are in range. The German platoon stops, Jäger inspects the village from afar with his binoculars, and he sees a cannon. But the cannon is made only of wood to trick the Germans, and they fall for it, as Jäger orders tanks to take it out. Then, Nikolai's T-34 shoots at the two tanks, destroying them with one shot as they are hidden underneath a haystack. They shoot at another tank, their location is now compromised, so they move out of the haystack and hide in a barn. The German soldiers retaliate by approaching on foot, while the Russians hide and wait for the T-34 to attack again. Their T-34 takes down another German panzer while the remaining infantry takes down the foot soldiers. Their T-34 managed to destroy 6 panzers. Eventually, Jäger and his men managed to chase down the T-34. But then, Jäger's command panzer and the Russian T-34 face each other in a final duel. They shoot at each other, both tanks are disabled, and half the Russian tank crew is killed. In an attempt to escape, Nikolai gets out of the T-34 and pulls out the severely injured driver, Stepan Vasilyanik. Simultaneously, Jäger gets out of his panzer, sees an escaping Nikolai, and shoots at him before passing out due to his injuries. At the same time, Nikolai and Stepan are left to be captured. 3 years later, in 1944, during the Third Reich, in the Thuringia S3 concentration camp, a train arrives at the station, and the prisoners of war come pouring out. The camp's warden welcomes the prisoners to their resort. He scolds them by saying that Germans are their master, with the help of the camp's interpreter, bilingual Russian prisoner Anya. He threatens to kill Nikolai for not following orders and orders his men to put him in a special unit, where they torture him for information about his name and rank. Jäger, now a Standartenführer, gains permission from Reichsführer SS Heinrich Himmler and General Heinz Guderian to recruit an experienced tank crew from Soviet POWs in a concentration camp, to act as opponents for training the 12th SS Panzer Division Hitlerjugend. Nikolai has been a prisoner for 3 years and has refused to give his name. Still, Jäger recognizes his photograph from the camp records. Jäger proposes the idea to Nikolai through the camp's interpreter, Anya. At first, Nikolai refuses but agrees after Jäger threatens to kill Anya, and he finally reveals his name and rank. The next day, Nikolai is forced to choose his crew from the other prisoners of war or POWs in the camp. Nikolai picks out 3 other tankers from the POWs, his previous driver Stepan Vasilyanik, Serafim Ionov, a loader to a crew of a T-34, and Demyan Volchik, a gunner to a crew of a T-85 that the Germans just captured. They are assigned to a captured T-34, which they must fix to prepare for a test in 1 week. At first, the Germans ordered the Soviet prisoners to clear out the rotting and burned bodies from inside the tank. However, removing the bodies, they find a few remaining live shells and hand grenades. They are granted permission to bury their comrades. They hide the ammunition with the bodies in a stone burial on the edge of the training grounds. Later, Nikolai briefs them about the training grounds and hints about an escape plan. He explains the plan to Stepan to convince him, the other tankers refuse to participate but eventually agree. He later gets called to meet with Yega. That evening, Yega tells him where the T-34 should be positioned, but Nikolai wants to place it elsewhere, where they wouldn't be expected. Yega agrees and praises him for their stealth in their previous battle. After fixing the T-34, Nikolai and his men show their skill with the tank by driving it around an unbalanced terrain in circles. Not trusting the Soviets and intimidated by their skill, Yega orders his men to lay anti-tank mines around the entirety of the training grounds. Anya convinces Nikolai to let her escape with them, as only she has the opportunity to steal a map from Yega's office. She also gives him a mold to make a key. The next day, Yega prepares his men for the training exercise against the Russians. Before the training exercise, Nikolai and his crew retrieve the ammunition from the stone grave. The German tank set off to approach the Russian T-34. Simultaneously, Anya goes to Yega's office to steal a map that shows a safe route out of the area and gain a pass, letting her out of the camp for a day. Meanwhile, Nikolai's crew creates a smoke screen to mask their movements. Believing the T-34 is unarmed, the Germans are unprepared when the trainee's first Panther tank is disabled. This shocks all the officers watching, and they scramble to alert the Panthers. Then, a second shell is fired directly into the observation tower, killing most of the officers inside, except for Yega and Guderian, who jump out at the last second. The T-34 boldly storms through the training grounds car park while crushing many of the officers' staff cars and breaks through the main gate, avoiding the minefield. The tankers pick up Anya at a bus stop outside the camp, which shocks the women at the bus stop. With the help of Anya's stolen map, Nikolai plots a course toward Czechoslovakia and back to the Red Army's lines. In the first town they come through, Nikolai and his hungry crew stop to find some needed fuel, new clothing, and fresh food. The people and the guards are helpless as they watch them take what they need. They burn their ragged prisoner clothes as they drive out of town. As they move out of the town, enjoying their stolen goods, they suddenly encounter an anti-tank blockade boasting a towed anti-tank gun. They barely manage to escape, but, thanks to Nikolai's quick order to step in to make a sharp left, with only a deep dent in the side armor of the right side of the tank. Nikolai's crew drives the tank through the woods, avoiding the Germans and their gunshots. They cross the road again out of sight and disappear into the deep forest until they are clear. Meanwhile, Yega and Guderian receive news that the Russian escapees have escaped the blockade. Yega theorizes they are heading to the border and orders to tighten their troops on the minor roads, but believes they can still trap them and orders assistance for air support. After driving for a few hours, Stepan says that the tank will overheat soon, so Nikolai orders them to get to the mountain pass, where they will spend the night. They pull off into the woods to rest for the time being. Nikolai helps Anya out of the tank, and there is a clear connection between them as they look at each other intensely. Their crew spots a body of water nearby. They enjoy their freedom by bathing in the water while Anya prepares dinner. Meanwhile, Yega takes to the sky in a Fessler stork to find Nikolai's T-34. He then takes command of 4 Panthers and prepares an ambush in the small town of Kling. At first, Nikolai suggests abandoning the tank and splitting up, believing they have a better chance of survival if they separate. Still, the crew insists on staying with him and is reluctant to leave their beloved tank. Before dawn, knowing that the Germans will be hunting them, Nikolai wakes up Anya and the crew and tells them they are all in danger. He tells Anya to go with them in the tank and tells her to make her way east on foot through the forests. He tells her to meet them by a meadow near Klingenthal, but she must leave at night if they are away by the next night. Nikolai and the crew say their goodbyes for now. At night, the T-34 enters the town and stumbles into the first of the 4 Panthers. Instead of trying to pierce its front armor, Volchik fires a shot under its hull that ricochets off the pavement and penetrates its underbelly. Nikolai realizes they are surrounded by the remaining 3 Panthers, including Yega. Knowing they must distract the enemies, he sends Volchik, armed only with a grenade, to disable one. Stepan crashes their T-34 through building walls before unexpectedly having a near collision with one of the other Panthers. The Russians manually turn their damaged tank and get a shot off just as the Germans are about to fire. They destroy the Panzer due to an ammo rack explosion, rattling the T-34 tank and the crew, stunning them. Meanwhile, the 2 other Panthers have arrived on the scene, and one aims at Nikolai. However, Volchik fires a shell out of the captured German tank. The 3rd Panther is disabled, but Yega quickly disposes of the captured Panther, badly wounding Volchik. Both Yega and Nikolai emerge from their tanks. Yega throws down his glove, inviting Nikolai to a duel. Nikolai asks for 5 minutes to pick up the wounded Volchik. Both tanks then move outside the town and face off over a narrow stone bridge across the river. As the tanks charge at each other, Yega fires several shots at the T-34 but fails to disable it. At the same time, Nikolai waits to fire their last shell directly through the driver's vision port. The two tanks fire simultaneously, badly damaging but not disabling each other. However, Yega's crew is killed, leaving him alive but badly wounded. Out of ammunition, Nikolai orders Vasilyanik to ram Yega's tank, pushing it to the edge of the bridge. Yega crawls out of his panther while Nikolai aims a stolen rifle at him. Yega shouts for Nikolai to shoot him, but Nikolai offers his foe mercy. Yega extends his hand, and the two adversaries exchange a handshake of respect. Nikolai tries to pull Yega to safety, but Yega lets go, allowing himself to fall to his death as his panther tips over the bridge and plummets into the river. With their tank's tracks disabled, the crew reunites with Anya outside the town, carrying the wounded Volchik on a makeshift stretcher. They make their way toward the Russian lines on foot. The movie ends with a dedication to the Red Army tank crews of the Great Patriotic War, all of whom earn the status of heroes for fighting against the invasion of their country. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this to help the channel out. Have a nice day.